for tomorrow.
That's the other meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. He said he'll join shortly.
Okay.
Yeah, just take it off pause, please.
Okay, I'm good. We're recording.
Thank you. Thank you, President.
Yep. Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
President Alvarado,
Here.
Vice President Suda,
Here.
Director Stanley, absent. Director Weiner,
Present.
and Director Zepeda. Not here.
He is trying to join.
Yeah.
Justin, do you mind sending him the link again?
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right. Seeing we have a quorum, let's go to the next item, please.
Okay, it is the Pledge of Allegiance or observation of a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
Which it stands, one nation,
God, indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As soon as possible.
Next item, please.
Approval of the agenda. Any member of the board may request an agenda item be postponed, removed, or heard out of order. An item may not be added to the agenda unless it meets the requirements of an emergency situation as defined in Government Code Section 54956.5.
All right. What's the will of the body? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we accept the agenda as is.
And who seconds?
Second.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Item's been moved and seconded. Please take the roll.
Director Weiner,
Yes.
Vice President Suda,
Yes.
President Alvarado,
Yes.
Director Zepeda, and Director Stanley, both absent right now.
All right. Next item, please.
Public comments, items not on the agenda. Nobody sent me anything, President Alvarado. Did you
Right.
want me to still go ahead and read everything?
No, I do not. Next item, please.
Number 4, workshop. Receive an update on CB strategies on the development of new strategic plan.
Okay. Who's taking care of this? GM?
Yep. So Tara is actually going to give you an updated presentation.
Okay.
I'm sorry, she put her hand up, so I didn't know she had something to say. But I did want to just say that this is a reflection of the comments that we received at the last meeting. So I think that you'll see a much revised, much more clear plan that you can follow, and will create those ties and linkage that might have been hard to see in the previous version. So the intent of today's meeting is really just to walk you through the updated version, sort of the organization, not necessarily get into all of the content.
Okay.
Certainly the board can talk about the content if you want, but the intent is to bring that back and have a discussion. This was intended just to be a fairly short meeting so that we could walk you through the new version. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tara, and just so you know, Tara, you're muted currently.
There we go. I'm now unmuted. Thank you so much for the opportunity to provide this updated version for you guys. I will be sharing my screen.
Would you like me to do it?
No, because otherwise it won't show up properly.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get it to share screen, share screen, share screen. There we go. So kind of going through, and I'm going to try and go through this pretty quickly because as she said, we're trying to get through this so you guys can get to reviewing the content. I wanted to talk a little bit about the background and what we've kind of learned through this process. So I understand you guys have gone through multiple strategic planning process, which has led to a multiple number of different definitions for each of these items. So for the strategic planning process, Lisa and I established some pretty clear goals, which was to provide some plan clarity and then get into really a plan purpose, like what is really the reason for this plan, and then ensure that there is plan alignment so that the plan goes from the top to the bottom and you can see every single connection. Through that, so let's start with plan clarity. So we have these very specific plan components, which is the vision, mission, core values, strategic goals, strategies, and actions. Vision, as we've defined it, is a statement that is aspirational description of how you see the future of the organization and is defined by the board of directors. A mission statement defines your organization's purpose and is also board directed. Your core values describe your organization's cultures and how you want things to be done. And again, is board directed. So there's a lot of board direction at this point. And strategic goals. Strategic goals define the direction provided by the board to staff in order to move the agency forward. And that is also board directed. And then finally, strategies identify a general approach to accomplish the strategic goals. And then getting into a measurement piece, actions are specific activities that will be implemented to execute strategies and are tied to a timeline and responsible party. So that's where we get into the really measurable piece. So I wanted to run you through a strategic plan example so that we could kind of see how that would look. So based on feedback from last time, these are all up for grabs. These are just random ideas that we've had. So this is one of the vision plans or vision statements, and one of the mission statements, core values. Here's what a strategic goal would look like. So you can kind of see the vision would be to create the holistic plan. Then your everyday mission is to protect the public health through safe, responsible water. Then you've got these core values on how you want to make sure that those things happen. And then you promote financial policy. So your strategic goal, which we'll talk about in a little bit, we went through those and took the goals that you had, modified them slightly in order to take a look at really what you were trying to get accomplished and put those together. So we'll talk about the strategic goals in a minute, but this is an example of a strategic goal. And then the strategy for that strategic goal. So your strategic goal is to promote financial policies. I'm actually going to move this because I think you might be seeing it, or at least I am. Promote financial policies and practices to support sustainability, integrity, innovation, and responsible resource allocation. And then part of an initial strategy of that would be to create a long-term financial forecast. And then the action associated with that would be to develop a 5-year outlook, where it would be assigned to Justin, supported by Lisa, and due in Q2 of fiscal year 20. So it's got a very specific defined timeline and responsible party. So let's talk about the plan purpose. So this is where we have the vision, the mission, and we talk about those things. So vision, a vision statement, as we've already said, is the aspirational description. Your current vision, you're already familiar with. And I believe this was sent to you ahead of time, so I don't necessarily want to read it off the board, but this was based on the last meeting we had. You guys seemed to gravitate towards this new vision as opposed to any of the other visions. I do have the other visions with me, but I don't feel like we need to rehash those, and we can talk about feedback going forward. Does anybody have any feedback on this piece so far, or any questions on the structure? Nothing? Wait, yeah?
Let's wait to the end to do questions.
Great. Mission. So this is the current mission. This is the proposed mission based on, again, feedback from last time. They seem to be very similar, so we went with the one that seemed most concise but still reflected the previous mission. Core values. So you've had service leadership, collaboration, trust, and accountability for a long time. Well, at least the last 4, but service was introduced in the last year. One thing that I could not escape when putting this plan together, and I felt like it was actually kind of missing, was this idea of sustainability. And I feel like everything you guys are doing is related to that. It's one of the key missions, and I feel like it is a value of the organization, even if it had not been stated as one. So I wanted to recommend adding that as one of your core values. We also went through and defined the core values and what those might mean to your staff. So, and these are obviously up for negotiation and discussion, but this is where we landed at this moment in time. So delivering value with humility, agility, and reliability. Be an example that inspires others. More than the sum of our parts. Starts with truth and ends with truth. If it's to be, it's up to me. And then finally, securing what we have for what will be. So goal setting objectives. We were asked to look at the goals and the objectives that we set before ourselves when we did that, Lisa and I together, were to include all sentiments previously established by the board. We wanted to make sure that these were 100% directly related. Add additional clarity to goals moving forward. So we looked at how to help staff make better decisions in terms of strategies, leverage decisions with the board to advance goals to current organizational state. Obviously, we've had some discussion on some things have been accomplished. What are we looking for in terms of future planning and evolving the goals to reflect the current state of the organization, and then streamlining those goals to allow for supportive strategy. So kind of when there's 2 that are almost the same, we made them sort of one more overarching goal to make sure that we could create a more aligned plan. So those are your current strategic goals. We don't need to go over them. We can go over them one at a time. So strategic goal 1. These are the 3 goals that we looked at to kind of create this newer overarching goal. So embracing our obligations of future, responsibly managing infrastructure, and collaboration. Now the new goal would be more specifically adopting infrastructure maintenance and modernization strategies that maximize performance, reduce risk, and ensure reliable service in collaboration with local, regional, and national partners to further the mission of the district. So it takes those and it kind of puts them into a very specific thing that we're trying to accomplish on a regular basis. And we have strategies that then can align with that goal. So strategic goal number 2 is really about focusing on the environmental idea behind the agency. So this turned into being an environmental steward in our community through a commitment to reducing carbon emissions, maximizing resource recovery, and minimizing our environmental footprint, and finally, ultimately becoming a carbon neutral enterprise. So really defining what that looks like and creating something that the organization can really move forward every day. Promoting financial policies and practices that support sustainability, integrity, and responsible resource allocation. That one did not change very much because it's really what you're trying to do right now. But we wanted to add the idea that it's also innovative, and that's one of the things that you're really trying to organize as an organization. Your uniqueness is something that is really powerful. So we wanted to make sure that we captured that innovative focus that you guys have. So this is another portion of that responsibly managing infrastructure, but in a slightly different way. So this is more about information and data systems to make sure that the infrastructure, like it's the how infrastructure is managed responsibly, rather than just making sure that it is advanced. And then this one deals mostly with personnel. So recruiting, developing, and retaining employees, and ensuring all staff are properly trained. And as we're going through this training process, we are doing that, but we felt like these 2 things could be combined in a way that embraces your identity, values, and culture rather than just your core values. And as we've now incorporated sustainability into your core values, you can just really say that it's your values. It's who you are. And then obviously providing a working environment that supports and rewards those efforts. And that's something that I know you guys are doing as a district. So it's one of the goals of the district. So we wanted to make sure that that was reflected here. And then to goal number 6. So we took the communication strategy to enhance public perception and confidence. And we feel like you guys have achieved confidence in your service. So we want to talk about enhancing the image of West County Wastewater and building awareness of the role. So it's less about confidence and it's more about awareness of your success. So those are all of them kind of together, and you can see that they've created a little bit of a structure. Now, moving on to logos. I wanted to highlight, we've gone through a lot of logos over this design process. And we've narrowed it down to, from the last 3 to 4. So what we did was we took the one that some of you liked and we took the one that others of you liked. And then we also kind of did 2 that were in the middle. So we bridged those 2 to see if there was maybe a negotiation between those. And before we talk about those specific 4 logos, Lisa, can you talk about the voting process that you guys did internally?
Yes. So do you have, there we go. So yesterday we hosted our first, or I'm sorry, on Tuesday we hosted our first ever all staff Zoom call. We had 48 employees on the call. And I briefly mentioned that we were going to be presenting a new logo to the board at the strategic planning session today. And we ended up showing staff the logo. So we had really positive response to the options. And then I just decided to ask everyone to send me their top 2 favorites, and we would collect that, and I let everyone know that I would share that with the board. I let them know that it was ultimately the board's decision, but I definitely wanted to make sure that the board heard from staff. That was one of the things that, one of the comments from the last meeting on the logo. And we didn't really have a great way to roll this out to staff, but it actually ended up sort of being off the cuff, and it ended up being really great. And this is the result of the voting and what I heard directly from staff. I actually got a few more after this time. So as you can see, number 1 was clearly the staff favorite, and then logo number 2 was the second. So I just wanted to share that with the board and give you that feedback on what you got 48 out of about 60 employees weighing in. So that's their choice, and I wanted to make sure you had that info.
Okay, we can get back to the logos when we start doing the discussion, but in the meantime, we can move on to plan alignment. So we wanted to make sure that there was a very clear checks and balances all the way from the vision, trying to achieve that vision, down to every single action item tying, you can trace it directly back to the vision. So let's talk about the strategies. And with this, I'm going to switch out of the PowerPoint, just so you guys aren't surprised, and get into the actual strategic plan. Obviously, I've left the logo off the cover, so, since we don't know what that might look like. But in the meantime, we added in the board of directors here. I felt like if we're talking about West County Wastewater, board of directors is obviously a really key component of that. So we added them in and actually moved the how do I read this document to a much larger section. We also changed this header to community distinction and connection, because we feel like those are kind of the 3 inspirational words for this document. Looking at what has come of it, looking at the identity of the district, those are 3 words that really resonated with staff and me throughout this piece. So the executive summary, we talk a little bit about how we looked at best practices, the executive effective utility management framework, and then identify those gaps. Here are the a structure infographic that then we break down into the vision, the mission, the core values, the strategic goals, and we've now just labeled them strategic goals 1 through 6, and then the strategies and actions as we've kind of already gone over. And you can see here how those things all tie together. So you have your strategic goal 1 listed there, your strategy 1, and then your actions, and who's responsible when they are starting to develop that and when implementation is expected. This is an example of, I'm not going to go through the whole plan because I know you guys have access to it and you guys can review it, but here is an example of a single page of the strategic plan as opposed to the action plan. The action plan is a separate document designed specifically for staff to execute and go through and approve. But here are the strategies and strategic goals. So you can see that strategic goal, this one specifically is about adopting infrastructure maintenance. Then these strategies directly impact the ability to complete that strategic goal. And then obviously there's the rest of them. And finally, a lovely picture at the end, tying it all together. And then back to the PowerPoint. So that's what the strategic plan looks like at a glance. And then getting into the action plan again. So basically tying it into that strategic goal 1, and then strategy 1, action A through however many there need to be, and they all very specifically tie to this specific item that ties to the goal, that ties to the mission and vision, and is thought about through the lens of the core values. Next steps. So from here, we'd like to schedule 2 additional sessions. Session 1 would be where we'd receive all the comments from the board when you've had some time to really review it, sit down with it, like line item, anything you think we need to change or think about, add, etc. And then session 2 where we would adopt it. So we'd incorporate all those changes and then provide you with a final document for you to approve. I hope, fingers crossed. And at this point, are there any questions or comments?
I'm sorry, I was muted. Did Director Stanley ever make it? I know, is Director Weiner back?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Director Weiner, questions, comments, please.
Who are we thinking is the audience for the actual document?
So there's a couple people that are the audience for the actual document. One is if you were to go to a like a Rotary Club meeting and wanted to discuss what was in store for the wastewater district, this would be a tool for you to be able to bring with you to very concisely discuss what's happening at the district. The other audience is potentially the public who want to, those people who are actively engaged in what's happening with the district. This is a resource for them to be able to see the direction of the agency very quickly and easily. And then thirdly, there's the audience of your internal staff. So this is the direction that you're providing them to make sure that they can succeed and do and execute your vision and turn that hopefully into reality.
Thank you.
Are you set, Director Weiner?
That's the only question I had so far. I guess one other question, which isn't a question, it seems like self-evident, but I want to ask it anyway. So my personal favorite goal is not on the strategic goals, and I was wondering if that was because this is a 5-year plan and not a 15-year plan.
Lisa, do you want to address that or do you want me to?
Yes, I can address it. And I think that you had earlier in the week had a discussion as well at the Global Warming Committee about that specific definition. But yes, one of the primary reasons it not being included is because it isn't within the 5-year. And I think on top of that, there has been some discussion, and again, I don't know what the outcome of this discussion yet was at Global Warming, but we need to reach for the neutral before we can reach to negative. So there's still some discussion around there, but primarily at this point, it's because of the 5-year horizon, and it doesn't fit within the 5 years. So we want something that speaks to it, but just, we don't want to put a goal that there's no way we'd ever be able to accomplish in that time frame.
And it's a step towards that. So one of the
Yes.
reasons why we included the carbon neutral part of it is because that is a phased approach to that ultimate goal.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Director Weiner?
That'll be it.
Okay, thank you. Director Cepeda.
No, but thank you so much for showing sort of a brief of all the logos. That was, I know you guys have worked really hard at it, and it was good to see where the employees or the rest of the teams feel that they land on. I think this is good. I like what you have done. I thank you for all the work everybody has done.
Thank you, Director Cepeda. Vice President Sedif. Vice President Sedif.
Yes, sorry. I just had, on the number 4, there's a word that bothers me. Just one word.
Going back.
Sure.
Wait, it went back too far.
I like all of the new ones, by the way. I like the combination. That one. Efficient.
Yes. Efficient.
I only say it, I would like it to say effective. Only thing about efficient is efficient doesn't always mean that it's the best, right?
Correct. It means it produces.
Wordsmithing right
yeah.
now, I know all of that. But there's something about efficient that doesn't mean quality. It doesn't mean it's the best way. It's effective, and I think we talked about this before, but effective. And I'm only saying that because that's the one that caught my eye out of everything else that was said. I like everything. I like the direction we're going in. But it's something about efficient that just snatched me. I just had a reaction to it. Everything else looks good so far. I'm going to, of course, have to soak all of this in, but efficiency is not necessarily spell quality to me. But, yeah.
Is that it, Vice President Sedif?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I think you did a lot of work on this, a lot of good work. I like the changes. It's a lot, and when the board members need now to digest this stuff, and I encourage everybody to go through this document and send your comments in, so that way at the next meeting when we meet, we can discuss all the changes that everybody's looking for. I myself love the document now. I'm not too crazy about the logo that staff selected as number 1, but I'm open. So let's take a look at that, because we do need to take our staff input, because they're out there, they're on the front lines. So to that end, I look forward to our next meeting. Is there anything else, Madam GM?
That is actually it.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think Director Weiner has a question.
Okay, Director Weiner, go right ahead.
Yeah, that was my favorite of all of the, I didn't say what about the logo. I passed by that, but that was my favorite of all the logos. But I'm more of a fundamental color guy. I stopped getting art training in third grade. So if it ain't red, yellow, blue, green, I'm sort of not, attracted to it. So that's my only comment regarding.
Okay, great.
We have blue and green.
Yeah, but I mean blue. Third grade, blue. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Weiner. Does anybody else have anything else before we adjourn?
Mr. President, this is Caesar. May I say something really quickly?
Go right ahead, Caesar.
And I know
Absolutely.
that, thank you, Mr. President. And I know that as we are looking for the logo, and I like the designs, we can figure out the minutia of them later on, but are we still sure we want to keep the name West County Wastewater? That was just my only question again. Because this is going to be the time that we can move if we want to rename as something else, or West County Wastewater Agency. I know we want to get rid of the district because of now that we all have districts, we don't want to confuse it, but just thoughts if we want to put out some new names out there, especially as we're going to celebrate our 100th anniversary or 75-year anniversary, something birthday next year. If we want to consider a new name change to go along with the new logo. And then the other thing in regards to the logo is that we can put less emphasis on the wastewater, just so big. It's like that's the only thing that I see, which, I mean, that is what we do, but I would like to see our name a little bit more. And if it was West County, a little bit bigger. And also just the other reason I was asking for, or not asking for a name change, but saying that we might want to consider a name change, because people don't always know where we are and who we actually service. When we say West County, we're actually just a piece of West County. We're not even all of the city of Richmond, for example, and people were getting us confused with the rest of Richmond and all the other sanitary districts that are in West County. So I just want to put that thought out there again. And that is it.
Would the board, if the rest of the board wants us to consider that, would you like us to come up with some options and present those at the next session for you to consider?
I think that would be a good idea.
Okay.
Because
I like the way sanitation plays into a lot of the names. They just ended in San. So Sacramento San, and our biggest ally, Central San, all that sounds pretty cool to me. So.
Okay, well, let them come back with some suggestions for us. And if anybody on the board has any suggestions, please send them in, so those can be considered as well.
Dave, Director Sudduth has something to say.
Oh, go ahead, Director Sudduth. Oh, Vice President, sorry.
They both work. It's fine. I just, in light of the fact this is going to be the 100th year, I'm leaning the other way. I think you are celebrating that it's West County Wastewater. I think you are celebrating that it's 100 years of West County Wastewater. So I'm more leaning the other way, being cautious and conscientious of not making a drastic change in name. I think changing the logo and maybe not focusing such a big wastewater name is good, but I wouldn't be making a drastic change in the name, and losing the identity of the district so much. But I would like to see the staff recommendations in that way. And I will say this from this way, listening to what Director Weiner said about the colors, considering that the overall, looking at the voting, we are heavily male-centric in this district, and most men are drawn to those colors. It is just scientifically, that is what happens when men are scientifically drawn to those colors, giving the color blindness and giving what men see in colors. So I'm not surprised by this survey. and colors in what director leaders say. So that's it.
I'll
All
have
right.
to share with you our female employees' votes.
I'm
We'll do
down.
it
Uh-oh.
All right. Well,
Thank you very
for
much.
those
The work
thoughts.
was very good. The work was very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So next item, adjournment. We adjourn the meeting. It's about 10:40 a.m. And thank you all. And
Appreciate
we'll
it.
see
Thank you.
everyone.
Yeah, thanks for all your work. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of
Thank
good
you,
work.
Lisa. Lisa
Oh,
really, yeah. She's amazing. Anyways,
Right.
thank
You
you,
all
Lisa.
have a great day now.